All right, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and I'm super excited because today I got an ENDS Zoroark EX deck profile for you all in today's video, showing off my current take on how ENDS Zoroark is played. Definitely excited to play this deck. One of the decks that I'm most looking forward to trying out with Journey Together is ENDS Zoroark, and the deck's good. I've seen a lot of different lists in Japan using different Specs, supporters, different Pokemon in the deck. There's a lot you can actually do and build with an ENDS Zoroark deck. I think the deck has a ton of potential when it comes out. And of course, being able to copy Darmanitan and Reshiram makes Zoroark really good. And of course, it has a great ability. So I'm really excited today to show off my new ENDS Zoroark deck list and show off what I think about the deck and why I think it's actually pretty good. And of course, if you're new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Here we're on the road to 22K subs. Leave a like if you enjoy. I got more Journey Together deck profile videos coming out for you all throughout the rest of this week, leading up to the release of Journey Together on Pokemon TCG Live, which I think is Thursday or Friday, one of the two dates. So definitely expect to see some more IRL deck profile videos. If you want to see me do more of these, even more in the future, once again, just leave a like in the video. I'd greatly appreciate it, and all that good stuff. Just to let me know you want to see more. So yeah, ENDS Zoroark is a very powerful card. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to get an English copy of ENDS Zoroark. I have a couple paper proxies in the deck, as you can see. Just, again, it's really hard to get Journey Together cards as is, and pre-releases were very limited. Like, at least they sold out really quickly. I was only able to go to one pre-release, so unfortunately I did not get an ENDS Zoroark EX. But, of course, I'll have an image on screen here of what it does. So this is one of the strongest cards in the new set. ENDS Zoroark is like a Mew VMAX and a Refinement Kirlia put together. Of course, it's got the ability to trade. You can discard a card from your hand, draw 2 cards. Pretty good ability. Then you have the attack, which for 2 Dark Energy lets you copy one of your benched ENDS Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Now, we do have a cool amount of ENDS Pokemon to copy. They did give us a few of them. The best ones, Darmanitan and Reshiram, are the ones we're going to be using. There is a few others, like there's a Joltik, a Purloin, a Klinklang, but the best ones are just the Darmanitan and the Reshiram. And the more I practice with the deck a little bit leading up to recording this video, the more I kind of realized the deck plays really interestingly compared to other decks. It's not a really like go all in turbo style deck. It's a little bit more slower. It likes to play from behind, and it has some really interesting plays you can make with both Reshiram and Darmanitan being in the deck. So, of course, ENDS Zoroark is one of the strongest cards in the deck. It has an insane ability where you get to discard a card and draw 2 cards. So the nice thing about this is we don't have to play like too much draw. I mean, we do have draw. There's other cards in the deck. There's one other card that draws us cards. I'm sure you all know what that is. But yeah, we have 4 copies of ENDS Zoroark. It is not only the main attacker in the deck, but also it's literally our draw engine. Its ability lets you draw 2 cards. Pretty broken card. To go with the ENDS Zoroark, of course, we're going to be playing 4 copies of ENDS Zorua. I was able to pick up an English version of this card. But yeah, you got to play the ENDS Zorua. Thankfully, it does have 70 HP, so it makes it very easy to get out with Buddy Poffin. Now, here's where things get interesting. The Darmanitan. Like I said, this is the main attacker in the deck, I find, or the main Pokemon you're going to be copying with Zoroark. Now, it has 2 attacks. You have Backdraft, which does 30 damage for each basic energy card in your opponent's discard pile. Not a bad attack. You can punish your opponent for getting greedy and discard energies. Obviously, this card is going to be pretty broken against Goldengo, against Sarah Ledge, Raging Bolt even sometimes, depending on how much energy they've discarded in the late stages of the game. And then you have Flame Body Cannon. This is the main attack this deck likes to copy. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 90 damage also to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you do 90 to the active, 90 to a bench Pokemon. Now this card is technically worse than Radiant Greninja because you don't get to choose the damage where you want to put it. You can only pick one Pokemon on the bench because you have to hit the active. Once again, Mana Feed is rotate. Not many decks will be playing Rabska. So this card usually, a lot of the time, is always going to be able to use Flame Body Cannon, which is really decent. And Zoroark can copy this for just 2 copies of Dark Energy. Now, of course, we do have the ENDS PP up in the deck, which makes it very easy to actually chain Darmanitans over and over with the Zoroark EX. Now, Darmanitan actually can attack in this deck, too. Well, we do play the card to copy with Zoroark. It's actually an attacker you can use. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, we're going to be playing 2 copies of the ENDS Darmanitan, and then we have 3 copies of ENDS Darumaka. Now, the downside about Darumaka, it has 80 HP. So, unfortunately, it cannot be searched out with Poffin. So, we're going to play 3 copies of it instead of a 2-2 line. Like, I usually would have played that if Poffin worked with Darumaka. It unfortunately doesn't. So, we're going to play 3 copies of it instead. But most of the time, you want to have the extra Darumaka on the bench because once Darmanitan, it gets your best attacker, right? So, in a lot of matchups, your opponent might chase down the Darmanitan and knock it out, which means that you're not going to be able to chain that attack over and over again. And that's why it's nice to sometimes have the extra Darumaka so you can keep trying to chain Darmanitan. But like I said, it's not the only Ends Pokemon in the deck. We got the Ends Reshiram here if he wants to focus. There we go. It's got the attack Powerful Rage. Does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. This attack is very scary because with Ends Zoroark having 280 HP, it becomes very difficult to one-shot. If you're playing against like Archaludon, for example, and they hit you for 220, you can just go Powerful Rage, knock out Archaludon for free, which is really good. You punish your opponent for basically not respecting the one-shot on the Zoroark, and if they go too far in the damage, they can get in range of getting KO'd by Powerful Rage. Then you also have just Virtuous Flame, which is a nice solid 170 damage. It's not great damage. 170 is actually a little low, because even if you were to apply that with like Monkey Dory and stuff, you're still falling short on KOs on like 210 HP mons, but it's a nice, decent attack that can at least do a 2-shot on most Pokemon in the format. So at the end of the day, you do have a decent, solid attack you can copy here with Zoroark if you can't use Rage or Darmanitan's attack. And those are all your Ends Pokemon. The Klinklang isn't really worth playing because it's Stage 2. Joltik isn't very strong, and the Purloin isn't good. These are just the two best options right now. I don't know if we're going to get any more Ends Pokemon in the future. Hopefully we do. I would love to see like more Ends Pokemon come out that actually makes this deck a lot stronger. And let's get into the support Pokemon. The first one I have is Monkey Dory. This deck plays Dark Energy, which means we get to abuse Adrenabrain. Once you're in turn, if this Pokemon has any Dark Energy on it, you can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Obviously, we're going to be in a meta where Dragapult EX is going to be one of the most popular decks, so Monkey Dory allows you to heal around Phantom Dive, but also does let you do more damage technically with like Reshiram or Darmanitan, which actually can be relevant. Yeah, pretty good card to have. Again, with Dark Energy in the deck, no reason not to play the Monkey Dory. I guess one thing I'll say about Ends Zoroark is you technically have an amazing matchup versus Dragapult, because when you have the Monkey Dory for insurance, you also have the Darmanitan, so you can, take out their Dracloaks really easily. On top of that, you have Reshiram. If Dragapult hits you for 200 damage, you can strike back with a knockout. So, right off the bat, I think this deck has a fantastic time into Dragapult. Next up, we have Budew. Now, I was skeptical on Budew at first in the decks. I saw a lot of lists in Japan playing it, but the more I looked at the deck and played it, I realized Budew is actually really good in this deck. We all knew Budew is a very strong card. Itchy Pollen, item locks your opponent. The reason why we're playing Budew is because we can lock the opponent from being able to set up their board because they can't play Buddy Poffin or Nest Ball. And then what you can do is you can come in and Darmanitan them and take prizes on low HP Pokemon, sometimes winning the game. Like if you go Itchy Pollen and your opponent didn't get to put a bunch of Pokemon in play, sometimes they just lose. And the next turn you just go Darmanitan for 2 prizes. Yeah, just a really good card. You basically limit your opponent's setup. It's kind of like playing Budew in like a deck like Sarah Ledge, where you can Budew them and then you can like Palkia Greninja them, right? So that's kind of the logic behind playing Budew, is you lock your opponent from being able to play Poffin, and then you knock out their low HP Pokemon with Darmanitan, making their setup extremely mid. That's why I have the Budew's in the deck. Next up is Pekkarunt EX. This card just allows Zoroark to switch in for free with its ability. The main reason why we do play it is for that reason. It's good against Sob Lock, and of course, it allows you to retreat your Zoroark for free, which is very important in this deck. There's a very important combo this deck has with Ends PP up, where you can only attach to your bench Zoroark. So, in order to use Darmanitan's attack twice in a row, you probably need to use a bench Zoroark instead, which is why we play the Pekkarunt in the deck. Then, of course, to round things out, Pheasantipity, yeah, we're going to play, it's Pheasantipity, right? You can choose not to play it because you do have Zoroark's own ability, which is pretty good, right? If you have like 3 of these in play, you're drawing 6 cards a turn, but why not draw 9 cards a turn? Every deck plays Fez, we might as well play it too. I don't know if you honestly need it, because like the draw power from Zoroark is so strong, but Fez is just such a good card to have in this deck, in my opinion. It's kind of a no-brainer not to play, which is why we're going to be playing the Pheasantipity in the deck. I think no matter what, we should at least consider playing the Pheasant here, and that is the Pokemon lineup. Again, you can consider playing stuff like Blood Moon or Saloon I've seen in the deck. You can try out the different Ends Pokemon. They're just not that good compared to Darmanitan and Reshiram. Supporter time. So this one is a little bit more simplistic. I didn't really go over the top of the supporters, but in a deck like this, you actually can. So, of course, we are going to be playing for Arven. Arven is going to be the main engine of the deck. I have seen the Zoroark list playing Research as an engine too. I think that's a little anti-synergistic with Zoroark though, because like in the mid to late game, when you have like a 8-card hand from just trade spamming with Zoroark, you don't want to research it away and lose all your resources. So I think Arven is just an overall better card for the deck. We do have a lot of really important tool cards and setup cards within this deck that Arven just allows your deck to flow a lot more easily. And because this deck likes to play from behind, we do have some interesting combos in the deck to make Zoroark a lot stronger, and Arven makes it easy to find those. We do, however, play for Iono, being able to Iono spam your opponent feels really, really good. And I'm going to play 4 copies of it. I also tested the deck without 4 Iono. I actually found it to be slightly more inconsistent. When I added the 4th Iono, the deck was a little bit more consistent. That extra draw supporter does make a big difference. Then finally, 2 boss. Yeah, it's pretty simple playing Jane in this deck. We're just playing the 4 Arven, 4 Iono, 2 boss. I wanted to play stuff like Cypher Maniac and Turo Scenario. I think Turo is the 61st card in the deck for the record. But it's going to keep it simple for today. I just found that, like, well, Turo is really good, and while Cypher Maniac is nice too, I didn't really find them to be that useful, especially if you only play 1 copy of it. But we have seen these, like, Zoroark trade discarding decks before play these one-of supporters, because you can afford to play them because you draw so many cards every turn. So it's tempting to want to play, like, those extra supporters, and you could definitely tweak with it. Also, I thought about playing Janine in the deck too, which isn't a bad idea. We don't play a lot of Dark Energy, though, so it doesn't really get to work as much. We'll talk about the energy count, obviously, when we get there. But that is the supporter lineup for the deck. The items. So this is where things get interesting. So we're going to be playing 4 Nest Ball. We kind of have to play 4 of these. We cannot get Darumaka out with Poffin. But we are going to play 3 Poffin. It's still very relevant to try to get as many Zoruas down as you can to quickly establish your Zoroark EX. So we're going to play the 3 Buddy Poffin and the 2 Ultra Ball. Now, within my list here, I'm going to explain why we are only playing 2 Ultra Ball in a second. Because while it might make sense to play 3, I actually chose an interesting line for the Ace Spec in the deck, and I'll talk about that when we get to it here at the end of the item section. But yeah, we're going to be playing 4 Nest, 3 Poffin, 2 Ultra Ball. Also, because you draw so many cards, it's kind of like playing 2 Ultra Ball and Goldengo. You just naturally draw so many cards, you don't really have to go overboard and play 4 Ultra Ball. 2 usually is fine, because sometimes once you start chaining Zoroarks, you usually start drawing into more Pokemon. Alright, this is arguably the main point of what this deck is trying to aim for, using the new item card, Ends PP Up, which I think I was able to pick up a playset of at a pre-release. So, Ends PP Up here. Attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Ends Pokemon. It's literally Dark Patch for Ends Pokemon. Now, mainly what the idea of this is you can use it to power up your Zoroark EXs on the bench. This is why we are playing the Petron in the deck, and another card we'll talk about in a minute, the Stadium card, which is also really cool. So, ideally, you go End Zoroark, you copy Darmanitan, you discard the 2 Dark Energy on the active. Well, now your Zoroark has no energy on it, right? Okay, well, what are you going to do? You have to 2-turn build it up. I mean, I feel like even with the Darmanitan, you're still going to be behind. Well, you can just simply go Ends PP Up, attach to the bench Zoroark, switch this guy out via Pekka or the Stadium card, go into the other Zoroark you built up with the Ends PP Up, and attack with that, and you just kind of loop those 2 over and over again, which is why we're going to be playing 4 copies of the Ends PP Up. It is the best card in the deck, by far, besides Zoroark, obviously, but it's like the main engine of the deck is this 1 item card. And then we got 2 copies of Counter Catcher. All the lists in Japan were playing 2 Counter Catcher, and at first I didn't really think it was that good. But you actually kind of need it when you think about it with the Darmanitan. When you're falling behind in prizes, it's actually kind of important to go Counter Catcher Darmanitan, because you can actually Counter Catcher up a low HP basic, knock it out, because you have to hit the active and bench Pokemon. Once again, this is not reading Greninja. You don't just get 2 Pokemon to hit for free. You actually still have to hit the active no matter what. So you can Counter Catcher a Pokemon. So let's say your opponent has like 2 Dracloak in play. You can go Counter Catcher Dracloak, and then knock out the active Dracloak, and then hit the other Dracloak for 90, which is why 2 Counter Catcher makes sense. Again, this deck is trying to play from behind, so the 2 Counter Catcher makes sense. I have seen builds in Japan playing Prime Catcher, which can act as not only a switching card for the Zoroark and PP Up combo, but also acts as an extra gusting card. And then we got 2 Night Stretcher. I'm not playing Super Rod. I don't think we really need it. I think Night Stretcher is like perfectly fine in this deck. It's just a better it's just a better card to have, in my opinion. If I was playing Janine in the deck, I would consider playing the Super Rod, but I think 2 copies of Night is just a lot better. And then, of course, we have Earthen Vessel. Just find you energy cards. Might as well play it. We have Arven. You can turn Arven into an energy, basically, which is why we play it. So that is the item. But there is one last item I want to talk about before we get into the tools, and that is the Ace Spec Hyper Aroma. This is the difficult part about building Zoroark. When I was building this list, I didn't know what the Ace Spec was going to be. I didn't know if I wanted Prime Catcher. I didn't know if I wanted Unfair Stamp. I didn't know if I wanted Maximum Belt. I looked up a bunch of Zoroark lists, and all of them were just playing a bunch of Ace Specs. Like, they didn't specifically play one Ace Spec. There was no standout Ace Spec. It was all just a bunch of different Ace Specs. Like, every list was playing a different one for a different scenario. There are a lot of different things you can do with the Zoroark deck. You can play the Unfair Stamp, so you can go like Unfair Stamp plus Darmanitan to cripple their board. You can go Prime Catcher, once again, to synergize with Zoroark and Ends PP Up. You can play Max Belt, so you can hit even harder with the Zoroark EX, especially with Reshiram specifically. So yeah, those are all the Ace Specs. And the one I ended up going with was Hyper Aroma, because I think Hyper Aroma is actually really good in this deck. Search deck for 3 Stage 1 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them in your hand. this card basically just gets you everything at once. It can turn an Arven into double Zoroark Darmanitan, which seems kind of gas, which I think is why Hyper Roma is my favorite ace spec in this deck. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to set up your board, you want to play the game, and I think it's very important to have a card like the Hyper Roma, and this is why we are only playing 2 Ultra Ball, by the way, is because this card literally gets us everything we want. If our turn 1 is just Nest Ball Poffin for 2 Zoras and a Darumaka, then our next turn can be Arven for Hyper Roma for double Zoroark Darmanitan, and we've perfectly set up our board, and we're just chilling at that point. Because at the end of the day, you just want to get the Zoroarks out as quick as possible, and that's why Hyper Roma is very important to have in the deck as the ace spec. All right, and then we get into the item or the tool cards. We have 3 very important tools in the deck. The first one is TM Evo. Just nice to have. You can just TM Evo. We're playing Arven. You can get out your Zoroarks, your Darmanitans before your opponent gets to Wellspring Mask Ogre Pawn you or something. We're really good in the mirror, obviously, too. So it gets out your Pokemon so you don't lose to like random bench snipe shenanigans, which is why I'm going to be playing a TM Evo, especially as we already have Arven. Defiance Band is really good. Now, one really cool thing about this deck is Defiance Band allows you to actually attack with Darmanitan in specific matchups. Now, Darmanitan's attack is really strong. So let's say you're playing against Terrabox, for example. Now, I guess I gotta reveal it. Spoiler alert, this deck also plays Reversal Energy, which is what you can use to attack with Darmanitan. So, let's say we're playing against Terrabox. They've taken a prize. We're behind in prizes, whatever. We can go countercatch your Teal Mask Ogre Pawn into the active spot, attach Defiance Band, attach Reversal Energy, and then you can use Flame Body Cannon to knock out the Ogre Pawn in the active because the extra 30 from the Defiance Band does let you do enough to one-shot a Teal Mask Ogre Pawn. And you can also do 90 damage to the Hoodoo on the bench and knock it out and take a 3-prize turn, crippling your opponent's setup quite nicely, which is why we're going to be playing the Defiance Band. It's really good at knocking out Teal Mask Ogre Pawns, and obviously it comes up in matchups like Raging Bolt and stuff. It also leaves a 1-prizer in the active spot that your opponent has to respect, which is why we're going to be playing the Defiance Band in the deck, because it works so nicely with Darmanitan. And then we got a Power Glass. This was a really cheeky card I thought about playing in the deck, but yeah, what it can do is you can attach it to your active Zoroark, and you discard the energy with your Darmanitan's attack. But then what you can do with Power Glass is you can actually retrieve the energy at the end of your turn. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active, you can leave a basic energy from your discard pile and attach it to it. So you discard the energy with Darmanitan. With Power Glass attached, one of those energies goes back on Zoroark, meaning that all you have to do is attach for turn and do back-to-back Darmanitan. This makes it less awkward when having to spam, like, switch-outs. So that's why Power Glass is a really cheeky tool card. I really like the idea of it, and I think in testing it ended up being pretty good. And finally, the Stadium in the deck. 2 copies of End's Castle. End's Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent, have no retreat. This card is very crucial because it's how you can kind of move in and out of the active with your Zoroark with your End's PP up, right? You go copy Darmanitan, and then the next turn, you End's PP up to the bench, you attach to the bench, you play down End's Castle, retreat your active into another Zoroark that got End's PP up and attached to, and then you attack with that new Zoroark. This is how we're going to be switching in and out of the active spot. I wanted to play an Artisan too, just to keep setting up the board, especially because it gets you Darumaka and Reshiram and Monkey Dory. But ultimately, I just couldn't fit the Artisan, but 2 End's Castle is like pretty standard. And then finally, the energy, we got 6 Basic Dark and 2 Reversal. The 6 Basic Dark is fine. We have 4 End's PP up, which effectively gives us 4 more Dark energies, so that's 10 energy in total, plus the 2 Night Stretchers. We have 12 energy to work with. That's more than enough, I find, to kind of win a game, so I think 6 Dark is fine. And then finally, the 2 copies of Reversal Energy. Once again, this is mainly just here for Darmanitan, so you can attack with Darmanitan against stuff like Teal Mask Ogre Pawn. And just being able to leave a 1-prizer in the active that can take knockouts is pretty good in this deck. It's one of the cool things the deck has going for it. And that is my Zoroark EX list here. I'm a big fan of this deck. I cannot wait to try it out when it releases on Pokemon TCG Live. And again, there are some interesting inclusions you can add to the deck. Again, I don't hate the idea of fitting in Turo Scenario or Cypher Maniac, Janine. The nice thing with Janine is it actually lets you, in the late game, attack with Petra Run, which can actually do some big damage with Irritated Outburst, especially if you are able to put your opponent on odd prizing. If they go down to 1 prize remaining, Pekarun can actually do 300 damage. So I actually do want to try to fit a Janine in the deck or something just to try to attack with Petrun. I have seen a lot of the Zoroark list also playing Blood Moon Ursaluna EX as another late game attacker. Because while this deck can be really good in the early and mid game by spamming Darmanitan, in the late game, if your opponent isn't, playing around Backdraft, or they are playing around Backdraft, you're not really doing a whole lot of damage. So yeah, you can kind of struggle to take your final knockout, which is why it's not a bad idea to maybe incorporate like a bear or like a way to attack with Pekarun. Have that big late game attack option. doesn't seem too bad. But yeah, that's my Zoroark EX list. Once again, really excited about this deck, and hope you all enjoyed today's video. Once again, if you enjoyed the deck profile, leave a like on the video. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're new here to the second channel, subscribe down below. Greatly appreciate that too. We're on the road to 22,000 subscribers here on the second channel. Let me know what you think about my Zoroark list. Are there any other cards I maybe could have put in the list? Let me know down in the comments below. Anything I missed out on, definitely am interested here, because I do want to make a good Zoroark EX video when the deck comes out. So hopefully y'all enjoyed the video, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.